everybody has been wondering what Judge Merchan would do out of that New York State case involving Alvin Bragg and the DA, and the fact that we had the Supreme Court case on immunity come out and how that affects all those witnesses that Donald Trump could have gone into court with his attorneys, and likely at least some of them, if not all of them, would have been barred from testifying when he evoked his presidential rights. But what's interesting here is that though you've had a court system which has been extremely hostile to President Trump, they have to deal with the reality that exists now because President Trump made 3 great picks to the Supreme Court that, again, protects the president from these kind of actions so they can do their job. These are people that want to try Logan and be able to go after presidents all the time, not just with impeachment, but like this idea of putting them behind bars. We've heard it over and over again. This case, though, now, the leave for the Trump campaign to file a motion to dismiss has been filed. You're seeing it on our screen right now. Now, they will get to reply, the Bragg team, but that does not mean that they are necessarily going to have oral argument. They don't have to do that. And I think this is, Logan, his way of out.
It's an indication of where it seems like it's going. So to make sure people understand what's happening here, this step is they approve the option for them to put in that they can ask for a dismissal, and then the other side has the opportunity to respond over a couple of weeks' time, and then also delays any kind of sentencing until an indeterminate time. I just want to make sure people understand what they're saying right now. But it's certainly a good sign that this will start the process of ending these cases.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen the federal cases starting to come to a close. I mean, out of D.C., and we know anything involving Jack, they're done. And they're on their way out. It was how these state cases, primarily in New York, how are they going to come to a close? Like in Georgia, they haven't even had the hearing yet on whether Fani Willis has to resign. And then they would have to put together an entire new case because of some of the issues she had with paying off her friend who had no experience putting a RICO case together. So I think those also will go by the wayside. But I think this was a huge victory. It doesn't mean it's over. The other side gets to respond. But it's one of those moments where you could say that the court is using reason and logic and following the actual law. My dad is joining us now, Jay Sekulow, Chief Counsel of the ACLJ, by phone today. And Dad, I want your reaction to, Judge Merchan granting President-elect Donald Trump's request to file a motion to dismiss against all of the charges in the New York versus Trump case. That's Alvin Bragg's case. The attorneys for Trump have until December 2nd. That's not too long. I can't believe it's not too long from now, but it's not. And then the Bragg only has 7 days to respond. My first question, Dad, to you is, in this kind of situation after the briefing, is there usually oral argument, or most of the time is this done off the judge just reading the briefings and making a decision?
I think the judge is in a situation because to understand what has happened here. The big issue in this motion to dismiss is this. Was evidence submitted at trial that the jury heard that based on the Supreme Court's decision in the immunity case, we wrote a big brief to the Supreme Court on that, where the president received immunity, which he had to, because or else you could never be a president and operate effectively. In that situation, could that evidence have been tainting the jury? Conversations, for instance, that were admitted at trial between the former president, now president-elect, and his staff. And the jury heard all that. I don't think there's any way, Jordan, that can be separated. I think Judge Merchan had no choice in this situation. He had to do 3 things. One, he had to postpone the sentencing. Here's why. We argued at the Supreme Court of the United States for President Trump, you and I did this during COVID, that these kind of interruptions to the presidency should not be allowed. Merchan knows that now. That is now the law based on the case we did. Number 2, the evidence did taint the jury, of course. And number 3, you can't do anything that interferes with the sitting president. And here's what's so wrong with all of this. We're talking about the fact that the president, which I think is great, nominated our colleague Pam Bondi to be the attorney general. But the distraction that all these other things take on now the president-elect during transitions time is the reason why the Supreme Court said you can't interfere. A state process cannot interfere with the president.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember you well, Dad, and I say it often on this show when we talk about these issues, when you said, we cannot, in that case that we were doing right from the room we're in now, an interesting time during COVID, and it went on for a couple hours because they got rid of the time limits. But you said, a president can't govern if local DAs, and the 2,000 plus that there are, who are elected by party, can decide to file criminal charges whenever they want against the president of the United States, that it doesn't work. And I know there's some of the issues of immunity, Dad, that have not gotten fully flushed out by the court, but we're moving there. And this, I think, is that signal to those other DAs during these 4 years is follow follow what even Alvin Bragg and this judge have done, likely, because you can't do this. And it hadn't been happening much before, Dad, but then this team said, let's just flout the rules and dirty him up. As we've said about Jack, Dad, I don't know how many times, is he goes in to take you down at the district level, the lower court level. Most of the time, his big cases have been reversed. So he's not someone that is a great closer. So this actually proves this was all 100%, not even like 1%, but all about politics. They knew it wasn't actually about putting Trump in jail. It was about making him sit there in court so they could say he was found guilty of 34 felonies, and now we're going to, he could be a felon in the White House. That is about to go away. And that talking point obviously was a failure.
Well, I mean, this is the weaponization of the Department of Justice, and that is going to stop. And now you said something very important here. The first line, I don't know if we still have it, but that I said to the Supreme Court when I argued from that very studio you're in right now, was that 3,200 local DAs could go after a president. And you realize now, with, as you said, all the federal cases automatically go away. But these DAs will just say, well, we'll just postpone the sentencing of the president of the United States for 4 years. I mean, this is how ridiculous it is. So this is where the court, I think Merchan's going to do the right. I'm not confident. I have hope that Merchan will do the right thing here, which is dismiss this case, and that's it. And then, of course, they cannot try a sitting president.
Yeah. I mean, I think if worst case scenario, he didn't move that way, as you move up the courts, I don't see a way they could move forward with this specific case and still balance that with the Supreme Court decision. I mean, it would have to be completely redone, and without those witnesses, I don't know how it would be redone. I mean, that was all the information. It was already a scam. I mean, trying to make a misdemeanor business records law and somehow tie it to federal election law that they have no business in overseeing. I mean, this is when people realized how bad the lawfare's gotten.